Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
And I'm Randy.
This is episode 195 of our show, and the date is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. What's up?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
Went to the toe poke doctor today.
Is that a technical term?
It's a technical term. Some call it a podiatrist. I prefer the toe poke doctor. Because they poked my toe with multiple needles. I've got crooked toe. Straighten that bad boy out. Now it's like this.
Yeah. Could just go in there with a hammer your hammer toe.
That's what I said. Hammer this toe. They said, sorry, sir, you already have one. Oh, yeah. Warm.
Yes. Arn Man says, hot one today. The forecasted 9 days without rain. I'm sure is what he meant. So far, it rained 3 times, and now should rain another 4 days. Crit fail on weather forecaster. Yeah, the hot part was not miscast. Perhaps the no rain. It was supposed to really be a barn burner this week, and so far, it's come true. For June, it's very hot in the 90s. Yeah, that's why I have no sleeves in my shirt today, because it's hot in here. I do not have central air. There's no air in this room. I just have a fan. And yes.
I have both because I love it.
You have both. Well, you're like a polar bear. Your mic cut out.
It did?
When you were talking, you probably talked a little bit too loud for the pickups.
I gotta watch that. I gotta do something. I gotta get a microphone that lets me scream. I need to be allowed to be louder.
Right. Yes, because you like doing that.
I do like doing that. I like being loud.
All of a sudden, too.
Yes. Super. Looks like we've got a good crew tonight, man. Who showed up here? Martinson. Bo paints minis. Bo hooked us up with 10 reasons to hate D&D. No, he didn't say that. He's 10 good reasons. Ultra American. Larry Elliott. Who else is here? A lot of good people. Green Apple, of course. Balthazar. Iron Man. The aforementioned. Good crew. Good crew.
Yeah.
Ultra American TTRPGer says, laughing his buttocks off. Joe looking like Steve Buscemi trying to fit in with the high schoolers. I think he's making fun of your little cutoff shirt.
Yeah, well, I just explained myself, so there.
He doesn't. You don't have to explain yourself to you.
Yeah, my feelings got hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, we're having weird weather. Oh, Patrick and his wife are watching from home. Excellent. It was hot today, but it wasn't like miserable. We had a little bit of a breeze too. I think Missouri.
The downstairs window air can cover just about the entire floor.
Yeah.
But I don't know if our electric system can handle another window unit that size. Put on that kind of load.
Your window unit in the main floor is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy duty. Upstairs, though, we have one window unit in one room, and it's really not sufficient for the whole thing. So, and I don't even know if I put a window unit in this room, if the noise from it would be detrimental to recording or live stream.
Well, the best thing is just to test it out the day of. Do it live.
Do it live. Test it out.
Test it out.
The worst that can happen is I have to turn it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you found it too, Balthazar.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Best not find out, consolidate in the cooler, darker area until the sun goes down, just like Gollum.
Speaking of that, I did finish my triple threat. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I watched extended edition of Lord of the Rings at the local movie theater. Ate way too much popcorn over 3 days. I was like, man, I'm done with popcorn by the last movie. And it was fantastic. Man, it was great watching it. I actually noticed 2 or 3 things that I thought were pretty cool. about the movie. Um, in fact, last night being most recent, was it last night? Was that Monday? Yeah. We were out and Larry Elliott joined me and our buddy Jeff joined me. We watched it, and I thought at the end, the part where spoilers, if you haven't watched it, then give up your geek card. Um, anyway, where
Indeed.
Frodo goes off on the boat with the elves, right, leaving the land. Um, I noticed that Frodo was like emotionless as the other hobbits were crying. Oh, we're gonna, basically sad because he was leaving. His eyes were just kind of distant and almost glassy. I mean, he could tell he cared about his friends, but he was just not showing much.
Yeah.
But as soon as he stepped on the boat, he looked like the old Frodo again. He smiled. It actually looked, kind of infectious. And I was like, wow. I mean, I don't know if they did that on purpose, but that's kind of cool. That shows his need to get away from it all because of, what he went through with the ring and all that stuff. I mean, it's a little artsy-fartsy, but I still liked it. Bo says...
Did he do that last weepy Sam, oh, Sam.
Sam. He does it every 5 minutes, yeah. Which...
Yeah.
I think didn't in the book was it like that? I don't recall reading it. No, he was never weepy.
They had a much different relationship. In the movie, they made them buddies.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, it was more like a military, like NCO, and their footman or batman is, I think, the word for it.
Yeah.
So Sam was his gardener and his what do they call it? Just started the word today. Anyway, kind of a servant, but they were Frodo was kind to Sam, and Sam respected Frodo, but they weren't buds.
Yeah. Not to jump too fast, but I do like Bo Paints Minis. He's the one that wrote us 10 reasons to play D&D. He says he's burnt out on fantasy. He doesn't want to play a game with elves and wizards and dragons. We're at very different places because actually I'm ready to play a game with elves and wizards and dragons.
Oh, sure.
Just really dive into it. I'm ready to
I can play any kind of fictional setting. I love sci-fi. I'm not huge on modern, but sci-fi and fantasy and all kinds of cyberpunk, supers, all that horror. I can play all that. I can have fun with all of it.
I can, but I'm ready to run. I was telling Joe before the show, I'm trying to psych myself up at some point. We're going to play later this week, and I'm psyching myself up I want to start a campaign. I want to run it myself. I've been playing the Minders game. It's a good segue. I've talked about that a few times here. We had an interesting Minders game Saturday. Our buddy Ben decided normally our group, the characters go into this, they live in a futuristic world. They jump into this machine and it takes some sort of quantum leapish and they leap into other bodies and other worlds. That way we're playing all sorts of different games. And they're called Minders because they mind these different worlds. But anyway, long story short, that's the recap. But this past week, we literally had the machine got manipulated on purpose. And instead of being sent into another dimension, we got sent into another character, our friend Larry Elliott here at the show, his mind and his memories. And it was kind of cool. And we were in kind of a mafioso setting. It was actually pretty neat.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was fun. We had a really good time.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So, not like, what was the name of that show where it was a sitcom on TV a while back, and the guy from Fright Night, the one that was the main character, he was in this TV show.
Chris Sarandon?
No, the main character, not Chris Sarandon. Chris Sarandon was the vampire.
Brewster.
Brewster. You're so cool, Brewster.
Yeah.
So in this old sitcom, he would get in situations and then reflect. So he'd get a faraway look in his mind. And then there were 3 people in his head that would argue about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of them was a girl for some reason. Anyway, but not like that.
Girls have gotten into my head before, to be fair.
Sure.
So, But yeah, that was fun. Did you get the game at all this past week, Joseph?
No, I did not.
Boo. Hiss boom ba.
No, very much boo. I did not. But this week we'll be playing at least Friday.
Yep. Got the Horde Wars.
Horde Wars thing.
And maybe again if we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
Yes. Oh, but yeah.
Getting into my mind would have been a shorter trip than getting into Dice's mind.
And it played out extra cool because his character's background, which is 700, Larry wrote a 700-page backstory. No, he didn't. He's basically in witness protection because he turned on his dad, who was a mafia don. But anyway, it was great. Ben orchestrated it so that we actually were at a pivotal point where we found out why Dice actually did that. And it was really actually quite cool. So
Ultra American says he's got a hard mode Horde Wars campaign in the works. Hard mode is where you don't get as much stuff at the beginning, I think, right? You don't get maybe only one class. I remember reading it. There's a blurb about it in the book. I can't remember.
I don't know, man. Our Friday Horde Wars games feels pretty hard mode to me all the time. When your cleric is laying on the splat of his back after the first round of combat, it feels pretty hard mode.
First round of combat. Face in the dirt.
0 hit points. Down goes Randy. No
0
shot.
hit points. Yep.
It's a beautiful thing. Oh.
Only one profession.
Ooh. That would not be
You would probably
easy.
be face in the dirt for 2 or 3 rounds.
Before the first round.
Before the
fall
first
down.
round.
I would see a monster and go save versus terrification.
Like a Christmas Story. The little brother, that's what they said he would do when there was stress. You just fall over.
Put me in a big suit.
I can't move my arms.
I can't. Just cry. You would love that. The whole game whining like a little Dorcas. That'd be awesome. All right.
Bo Pace Minis asked what system that is. Horde Wars. Horde Wars.
Yeah. Armin says, don't waste any skill points on fitness. Gotcha.
Yeah, why? You don't need fitness.
Nah.
You're just going to be you're facing the dirt anyway. All right.
Yeah.
How about we get into our topic, which is top 10 reasons we still play D&D collectively. Now, this isn't necessarily about Randy's nor I's precise opinions. This is more like what we think, why we think D&D is still a game that a lot of people play. And I guess it's irrelevant of edition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I read a few articles, gave you some. You can post them if you want. They're not the greatest, especially the one from CBR is kind of weak, though they make a few points that I think are interesting. But I thought about that a lot. Now that I look at it, I think of another one too, but I just threw some down. I can put 10 pretty fast on my own.
Right.
So I don't know what you think, Joe, if you have an opinion or where you want to begin, but go ahead and take it away, sir.
Well,
that was my plan.
We can. I'm going to post this first article's link in the chat. It is cbr.com, and if you read any opinion pieces online about D&D, the bigger sites are, in my opinion, kind of crap. So, and CBR is one of those crap sites.
King size.
But
I could share it if you want. I've kind of got. I think I have it up, but it may be a bunch.
Go ahead.
It may be a bunch. This is CBR's list, so please don't take it as ours because it would not be.
It's CBR's opinion on what D&D does better than any other RPG.
Yeah, and I don't know if is that big or small. Should I make that larger?
Well, if you do, leave the writing in place long enough for folks to read it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how far it extends off to the right there. So, if you scroll it up.
I have to admit,
that's
number 10. That's kind of a weird one. D&D's vivid images and accessible, tangible props make it easy to keep moving. I don't know about
D&D
that.
doesn't have, D&D doesn't have props. I mean,
Minis
other companies.
and terrain.
Yeah,
But that's for everybody. I thought this is kind of a lame one.
yeah. That's not D&D really. D&D is the rules in the rule book, not props. Vivid images. They
like
kind of help.
the original Deadlands has fantastic art and cards and chips, poker chips. I would argue
I
those
would
are
say,
cooler props than D&D's props, though minis are pretty
yeah,
sweet.
yeah. I would say that the art that's in most of your fifth edition books, especially, is a mixed bag of a lot of crap thrown in.
Mostly crap and
So,
one or
but
two
there,
yeah. One or two
but there's a
decent.
lot of other games that have really good art, especially the ones that don't have a lot. So they make sure that they get the few pieces they have in there are good. But I don't think D&D, the artwork for D&D is all that great.
It has been great in the past. It's not now. And it looks to be even worse, I think, for the new version. So,
Well, there is a piece that has an homage to the D&D cartoon.
yes.
And that piece is pretty good.
Yeah, I like
the
the
other
Venger thing.
Huh?
The Venger piece of art.
No.
Oh.
No. There is a Venger. Yes. That has Venger in it, and then a couple of the, not the full cast. They might have had some copyright issues from displaying all of them, but they got a lot of them in there. And cast isn't right, all the characters, but it was a pretty good piece. It should have really been the cover instead of the crap that they are proposing for it.
Yeah. Now, this one I thought was actually a decent one that I had not thought of myself. D&D inspires through fiction tie-ins. There's fiction for a lot of games, but there's something to D. I mean, D&D had. I remember when the books first started coming out back in the, like, I guess when Dragonlance was new, and then they started going crazy in the later mid stages to late stages of second edition. And whether you liked them or not, it could easily. I mean, I thought the Dritz novels were fairly inspiring, at least the first few. I enjoyed the Dritz novels. Dragonlance, I never really got into. I got several friends that loved them, but it was never my favorite thing. But
there was in the second edition era for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't know beyond that really.
Third edition,
I didn't pay attention to it. I got kind of.
Yeah, you weren't a big. You were always a reader.
I was not a big fan of D&D fiction.
No, but you were a big reader.
Big. Yeah.
I always felt that you read. What I would hate to say this, I don't want to call them real artists, but you read some of the great authors. I mean, because they were real authors too. But you read some of the great authors back in the day. I mean, you were a big reader, middle school and stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, you read Dune, you read Lord of the Rings, you read the Shannara Chronicles and all. I mean, whether that people like them or not, you read all these books by people that were just making a living as authors. And so at first I thought, man, Joe's just being kind of an arrogant. But when you read some of those books, they weren't the greatest.
I mean, even Gary Gygax took a turn at writing the Gord the Rogue novels.
I read the first
one.
They were not good.
They were not good.
I like Gord.
They were okay.
Ultra American TTR says, did you guys read the Dragonlance novels? I only read a book of short stories, and I can remember the one that I really, really liked. It was the one about
I read some of the Dragonlance stuff.
Did you?
I just like it's okay.
Did you read through the whole original series? I have them. I
don't know if I made it through a whole set because they had like a lot of other books. They have either trilogies or 4-book sets. Usually the trilogies are 5-book sets, and I think that with Dragonlance they had 2 or 3 different 5-book sets, and I don't think I made it past the first 5-book set.
Did you read any of the early?
It just wasn't for me.
Did you read any of the early Ravenloft stuff?
No.
Yeah, I read.
I tried a few times. I dipped my toes. I read the Gord Rogue novels. And I was like, Gary Gygax can't write books, and then not really. At least they were short. And then I didn't really care for Dragonlance. I read some of the Forgotten Realms, other stuff here and there. There was a couple of books about the what is it called? There were a couple of Planescape novels, maybe a lot, but I read 1 or 2. Or no, I read the first one, and it was really not good at all.
Pages of Pain with the zombie, that was dumb. Yeah.
So says, at some point I was like,
Balthazar says, time has a way of changing your viewpoint on these things. when you first experience it, they may seem awesome. Few have the stuff that would make them classics, but they were fun and fired my mind. I think for a lot of people it did. A lot of my players, not Joe, were into Dragonlance. They were into the Forgotten Realm novels. Dritz, he brought the 2 weapon wielding Drow Ranger. Everybody wanted to play that. I remember that thing.
Then they had his counter in there, that the assassin that was out always after him.
Artemis and Trary. Yeah.
Artemis, yeah.
Yeah. I probably enjoyed the Dritz novels and the Ravenloft novels better than any of the others. I read one Dark Sun. Like I said, I read a short Dragonlance novel. Yeah, probably so. Are we consider? Armin says, are we considering OSC to be D&D? Dude, I do. Yeah. I think OSC is just basic, dude. I get there's some changes, but not enough for me to even care. If you want to add the clones
I would say all the things that yeah, sure. I would say what we like about D&D makes us want to play those.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you only like playing to the 3rd or 4th level.
All right, let's look at the next one. After we've been inspired by fiction. Keep showing. What is the deal with the chick? Like some chick on there all the time. Okay.
That's an ad.
Okay. Player's Handbook walks players through character creation from end to end.
Yeah, nobody else does that.
That's what I was trying to. What are they? What kind of thought is that? I'm literally flabbergasted at how dumb that statement is.
I mean, there might be some games out there that do not have a character creation process written in the book, but they're few and far between.
That's our game. Mudsword's going to say, roll 5d12 for each stat and play your character. Go.
Yeah. Go.
Go.
There's classes and races, but, they're up in the air. Who cares?
Yeah. I agree. Armin says from beginning to end would be better. So make your character at 20th level, and then it's over. That's
Remember, this is a CBR article. They like putting giant pictures and very few words in their articles.
I don't disagree, Balthazar. They do seem derivative, but we're just kind of run through, trying to find some that might be good. I don't remember where they are. Here we go. Now this is interesting to me.
I don't have anything to say about this. I'm not the DM most of the time.
I will say this. AD&D 1E's Dungeon Master Guide is the quintessential DM's guidebook for a game master. I don't know. That's okay. It's cool, Balthazar. I understand. I don't know if other games really do that. I mean, for a long time, D&D was the only company, if I'm correct, that did the player book, monster book, DM book. Are there many companies that do that anymore?
Yeah, I think that was their way of doing things for the longest, and not too many other people did it like that. They had their own way of doing things. Like a Traveler, it just had a bunch of books, and most other games that I know of, they have a core book that has all the rules, and then they have additional books. I mean, Rifts. I know that they have a referee's book in there.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Well, Rifts,
and it might be more an advice book.
They have a game master guide, a hardback. I've got it.
Mm-hmm.
They have, but I mean, it's something to come up later. But I mean, D&D's always done that since the hardbacks came out. Oh heck, You could argue even the old white box. There were 3 books, kind of making your character and the monsters, and then Wilderness Adventures. So it was kind of
the BECMI sets had a player's book and a DM's book. They didn't have a separate monster book, but they had
because the DMs. I think the DMs got the monsters in there. The DM's book did.
Right.
Which is okay. I don't disagree, James. How's it going, buddy? He said the AD&D 1E DMG is it. That's a lot of folks think that.
Gaming.
Huh?
You didn't finish reading it. You didn't finish reading it.
AD&D. I'm moving fast, and I apologize. AD&D 1E DMG is the pinnacle of gaming.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of people agree with that, and I'm probably one of them. Not pinnacle. I don't know if maybe the pinnacle. Let's see. Now this will be a debate. D&D has good tiering of opposition.
I would say that most people that I've talked to that run games would really say that this is not true. It has on paper tiers, all the monsters are leveled, but most DMs that I talk to say that it's a mixed bag on whether they're appropriate. But then here's the other thing: the idea of appropriate challenges for your character, for the characters, for the group. And I don't know if some people think that's a good thing. I think that that's kind of a softball approach as a DM. If that's what you plan on having 3 or 4 encounters during a session that are appropriate for the characters, without saying, well, let's turn up the heat a little bit. But it's a mixed bag from 2 points of view, in my opinion.
Okay.
One, sometimes you just don't know how the situation is going to roll when you present an encounter.
Mm-hmm.
If the roles at the table will be more important to the challenge, I think, a lot of times than the monster's powers. I mean, what if the players all go first, kill the monster before they even get a power going?
Yep.
Right? That happens a lot, and you can't really even say if it was a challenge.
I think D&D. Go ahead. You have another one.
And sometimes they don't really. They say it's a 5th level monster, but then you put it in front of PCs and it wipes the floor with them without having to roll high. You as the DM having to roll high.
Or you use it multiple times, and no matter how the players roll, the players kick the poop out of it. That happens too. They say it's a powerful monster. I think. I will say this. I give 3rd edition. See, I think trying to tier monsters is not the worst idea, mainly for beginner GMs. But I think it's pretty obvious when you open up the book, any book version of Monster Manual. I'm not going to go straight to an archdevil and put that against a group of 3rd level characters. You run into the room and Asmodeus says, "How dare you come into my keep?" It's like, come on, dude. And I think that for rookie DMs, though, it's not the worst, but you can do that in modules. Iron Man makes a good comment, and this is a strong argument for D&D. There's a massive library of modules. That's a huge bonus. I mean, that's true. But I think the tiering of opposition, I think I've not seen many games do that other than D&D. And if it were up to me, I would have a suggestion. Like, this guy's, like, say, this monster is probably appropriate for lower level characters. That's about all I would say. I wouldn't give it a ranking like CR2. Because those were more creative anyway. It's always more of an art than a science. So.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to get to this a little faster, maybe. It voids things it doesn't handle. Here's what they said. It's not very good at simulating a realistic fantasy world. Okay, I agree. They're saying that D&D was basically, for high fantasy, comic book style stuff. And
I don't know about comic book style, but it is for high fantasy, especially once you get past a few levels. You get a few levels under your belt and you're flying and fireballs and teleporting and stuff like that. That's high fantasy. That's not low fantasy. That's not Tolkien-esque fantasy.
No.
And D&D only does that if you stay in the single digits below 5th level, probably.
For sure.
Once you get outside of that, once you get outside of that, you are no longer in Tolkien land.
And that's why some folks don't like higher level play.
Right. Oh, thank you. Okie dokie.
James Gang, what tier is a monster that can curse an unmarried woman to become very promiscuous? I think that's probably going to be moderate tier. I don't know. Tier 3. I don't know. What are the tiers? I don't know. No, and those folks are wrong.
Yeah. Well,
you can do a lot. I've done a lot of
avoids things it doesn't handle. D&D doesn't do any of that. D&D is a game that is fantasy, and has a set of rules. And especially the earlier editions, they say do what you want to with the rules. So that implies if you want to run sci-fi, you might be able to still run your D&D game, but it might be a little bit difficult to throw in laser swords and blasters and stuff like that alongside regular weapons, unless I
don't
know
know.
people have tried. Maybe it'll work.
Barrier Peaks. D&D did it.
Right. So it's right, but that's bringing in a taste of sci-fi into a fantasy world. But if you're just saying, I'm going to just reskin this to be a science fiction, and it can maybe work.
It could.
D20 has been applied. The D20 system has been applied to a lot of different settings. So I'm not sure. I think that when the way that people write these articles, these D&D avoids things. It can't avoid things. It's a book.
I think their implication is they wrote the game so that they did not address those things. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's for high fantasy gaming. I know some people would disagree, but that's what it really is for.
Shadow and Sun says I've done it with incredible success. Laser swords and blasters all day in D&D. Balthazar makes a good point. What is a realistic fantasy world? Isn't that a bit oxymoronic? No races, no magic, no monsters as normal critters. Not very fantastic. I think, again, I'm going to argue it's the language. Hey, real long shot. I think realistic should be replaced with consistent. I want a consistent world. Whether or not it's, could happen in our world is irrelevant.
Right. And realistic, I would rather say what D&D does not do is it doesn't handle implications or leaves implications of there being monsters and magic in the world for the DM and the players to handle. So how would it affect economies and government structures and travel and all of that? I mean, honestly, if you had a huge amount of monsters running all over the place, people would not be traveling very far. So, but how much of that are you as the DM and the players going to worry about? Or are you just going to sit down and play the game and not worry about that stuff? So maybe that's what they mean by realistic. There's no such thing as realistic fantasy. It's just fantasy or real.
Let's see here. We got to get out of this article. It's not that interesting. D&D knows what it does well. Again, Joe wouldn't like that language, but it with escalating stakes, it does. I don't know. That's dumb.
I don't buy that point either. They're not the headline for it or the text.
Yeah, we're skipping it. D&D does a fantastic job of directing character advancement. Well, it simplifies the job. I'll give them that.
It tells you what to do when you advance.
Yes.
It tells the DM what to give you when you complete goals. I mean,
it tells the DM not to give magic items out. And so that's cool.
Every game that has advancement tells you what to do when you advance. This is stupid. D&D doesn't do a better job instructing its players how to advance the characters than other. I mean, there might be some games that where it's unclear, but your top games, they tell you if there's advancement, how to do it.
I think D&D just makes it simple. You get them all in one fell swoop. Here's the junk level 2. Here's the junk at level 3. It's more compact. It may not even be simpler. That might be the wrong word. And then D&D organizes and incentivizes players to keep playing. I guess I don't.
No.
I don't get that. No, I agree. I don't know what that even. How that. Well, let's see what the justification is. No, it doesn't make any sense. Children work.
No.
Something intangible about D&D makes it. There is nothing about D&D that makes it. That's garbage.
Okay, I think what they're trying to say about the intangible thing about D&D is that for some people they really like D&D, so they keep playing it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's groundbreaking news there.
So far, they're not very convincing.
No.
It introduces players to a dynamic, ever-changing hobby. Well, I'll say this much. D&D is usually the gamer's first role-playing game. That's probably pretty consistently true. So it does introduce players to that. And then they might wonder what it might be. Yeah, Elliott's right. There you go. Larry Elliott says the group incentivizes people to keep playing. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think it's a crap
actually,
article.
right. It's a crap art. So the hobby as a whole, tabletop games, that's fine if it's dynamic with new games and whatnot. But if one of the frustrating things about D&D has been how many additions and changes there have been over the years. So this article has to be 5e focused.
Right? It is for sure.
It's a modern article.
Sure.
It's a modern article because you can't say that 10 points about D&D are valid across editions very well. It'd be very hard to have 10 worthwhile points to make about all the editions of D&D.
Yeah.
And
though I tried and got really close.
So
yeah, Bo paints minis. He's right here.
Ever changing. I'm just going to say that I think that the ever changing part of a system is frustrating.
Agreed.
I know some people like it. I'm fine if it is. We're going to make D&D better. We're going to change little bits of it over time, and then we're going to have probably a time where we're saying these are the set rules, and then what you do more is modules and setting material.
Well, going down this will be a huge tangent, so don't, but I'll make a comment. I think their plan is to not make any more, if they can help it. The only kind of rules updates, they're only going to call it D&D, and it's going to come online. And their plan is that you'll only play their official modules. They really don't want you to homebrew, I don't think, in the upcoming game. They want you to buy the next product. Bo Paints Minis was responding to Arnman. Maybe I should look at Arnman's comment. Arnman said, I consider that so many people know how to play D&D, and that is a good reason to keep playing it. Fair. And then I think Bo is responding, yes. He says, D&D is the Denny's of RPGs. Fair. There is one in every town. Everyone knows the menu, even if it's not very good. Sometimes it is good. I used to love the Moons over Miami.
Yeah, a lot of those. I haven't been to Denny's in a while.
I haven't been in years.
But well, here's just the thing: a lot of what all of us are saying are our opinions, and it's very subjective. So, anyone trying to say this is the reality of the game, in some trying to make it out to be more objective,
it's pretty hard. But I did come up with 10 reasons. Should we go through the ones we think they are?
Oh yeah, that's fine. So everybody's fine to have their opinion, but all of this is subjective.
Here comes mine.
100%.
Mine's complete factual. You cannot argue with it.
Factual, can't argue. No arguments.
Number one, I think its big draw is generic fantasy. It's pretty generic fantasy. You can go crazy Forgotten Realms. You can just play D&D from levels 1 to 3 and feel like you're playing low fantasy games. You can play high level Gonzo Crazy Town. And to me, it's just generic. It's wide open. They got even the basic game. I mean, I've been listening a lot to, let me do a quick plug here, Joe, if you don't mind. I want to do a plug for somebody that I've been really enjoying a podcast. So I'm going to put them up here. It's called When We Were Wizards. Anybody that is remotely intrigued by Traction Media, anybody that's remotely intrigued by the history of the game, especially the business side, they got like 7 episodes. The Snake Pit's the most recent, came out, I guess, today. But I'm telling you, these guys are pretty interesting cats, and they do a little, they have actors playing Gygax and some of the others kind of doing a little bit of they'll have just like a 30-second snippet of this trying to act like how Gygax might say, but a lot of it's legit and interviews of people that worked for TSR in the early days. They're currently at the stage where TSR is making big bucks. Gary's still there. The Bloom brothers and Gary are running the show. But it's about an hour-long podcast. It took a huge hiatus last year, but they've been cranking them out of it every week or so. I would strongly encourage folks to check it out. So anyway, just a little thing there. Bo, I will counter this statement. He says, but why have Denny's when I can get Ruth's Chris? Do you really want Ruth's Chris every night? Do you really just want a steak every night? I don't. I love steaks, but I don't want that every night. And I don't want to pay for it every night. So
whether your game at the table is a Denny's or a 5-course meal at a top shelf restaurant is dependent on the folks at the table.
Boom.
As much as or more than the system itself.
You can have the cheesiest, least impressive system, and if you have a group of good players, you can make it from like complete crap to palatable, or at least like that was kind of fun. Sure. Or if you have a decent system, like you have to admit D&D's decent. Dude, I've had phenomenal times with D&D.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
No matter what version, it's been fun.
Minor wrinkles like, especially in the earlier editions, actually most of them with grappling and whatnot, you just ignore it. You don't use it. I know Bo mentioned falling. Well, if someone falls from 100 feet, I know Randy was like, I know it says D6 for whatever. You're just dead.
Yeah, I always hated that rule. Hey, that's part of the beauty of it's DIY. Your dog is going crazy, dude.
Yeah,
squealer. But I think also another thing for me anyway, and for others it may matter and matter less, it was the first RPG we ever played, and we were only playing that forever. And so it's so built into my natural inclination that I just think that it's hard to get away from. And at 57, even though I got a bunch of these books around here, I'm looking at them, you can't see them, but I got a bunch of books on the shelf. I just sometimes don't want to spend the time learning new games. Call me old, but I just get that way sometimes.
Yeah, what you're saying here, generic fantasy, that's what D&D has always done.
Yep.
At its base, they've had some supplements that change it up a bit, but generic fantasy does well. The second point you have here is the first RPG. I don't know, did you...
Later, Shadow. He's boogieing.
Good deal.
Yeah, I just commented about our first RPG. Yep.
Yeah, first RPG, we were 13. I was 13.
12 or 13,
You
yeah.
had to be 13.
Yep.
And so 40 some odd years later, still like it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Played it for a long time.
And it's still the most popular. So if you're looking for a group, that's the third one. You'll have a better chance if you play D&D.
Right. So, and this is, I mentioned the edition part earlier because a lot of this is kind of dependent on what edition we're talking about, especially the popularity part. Is it the 5th edition that's popular, or is it the older editions that are popular, the more popular? Now, it's probably going to be 5th edition for whatever reason. But D&D is popular as a brand. And most people that we are around will play whatever edition.
I agree, Bo. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. It's hard for me to...
It is.
Yeah, it's hard for me to fight it off. If you saw my bookshelves, you would see every edition of D&D on it. So, and most of it comes from... I would say there's probably been 3 big phases in my D&D career, and Joe was a part of them. I would say the original red and blue boxes, we played the crap out of that because we didn't start with OD&D. And then first edition, second, I put first and second kind of together. We just kept going. And then the third edition era was huge. We kind of punted on 4th. I tried 5th more than Joe did. And I wouldn't say I've given up on it, but I'm not running it anymore. I've got no interest in running it. So when I say D&D, it's probably 3E or earlier.
Yeah. So, and we've stated a couple of times on here. Before I say anything else, looking good for 57 from James Gang. Thank you very much.
We do.
I agree.
That's awesome. Thanks, James.
But we like D&D, but we know that there's parts of the system we don't like. And you posted you have a YouTube video, another YouTube video that you have linked in here that I'll put in the chat that has kind of an okay explanation. I mean, it's his explanation. why he likes D&D,
Yeah.
and most likely it's in. I'm pretty sure he indicates it's 5th edition, one way or another.
Right.
But
I mean, 5e is not trash, just WotC is.
right,
So I mean, it's become trash because of what they push, but as a game system, it's fine. They made me too angry. I won't play it. I won't say I'll never play it, but I'm never running it again. Not as a campaign. We do not have enough interest. Would make me sick too much. I do think our vast experience with D&D, its very core rules, no matter what the edition is, that goes back to what I said about kind of falling back to things that I know. If I play D&D, I don't have to work very hard to get caught up to speed. So
Armman says I am 57 and 14 halves.
Sweet. Better known as 7 plus 57, but I'll never tell. Oh, Bo's going down on the drop-in. He says, math hammer. The average max falling damage is 70 HP. A whole lot of high-level fighters can eat. Oh, yeah. We had fighters back in the day drop down and say, I don't care. I'll jump off the cliff. And I'm like, do it. I dare you. Do it. You don't think Randy will just say dead? Do it, 19th level fighter. Just jump off that cliff. I got 200 hit points. You won't when you land.
There's other strange things that we do or we could do, or that comes to mind when you're a PC. You become fearless because I got 70 hit points. There's an orc there. I'll just jump in front of his sword. It'll hurt a little bit, but whatever. And or take on a bunch of what may appear to be low level or weak opponents, because you got a lot of hit points, and that is kind of it can be an issue with D&D, but it is the game.
Yep.
If you jump in front of a sword, they may not have to roll it to hit. They might do an automatic crit. It all depends on how the D&DM wants to run it.
Since we're hitting most of his top 10, probably so, dude. We might be. I mean, I ain't lying to you. I had some written down. I didn't just steal it. We're hitting most of his top 10 points. Fair enough. That's why I said I liked him at the beginning.
So let's move on a little bit. Got core experience. The current media
star.
Also highest name recognition. Oh, that's part of popularity.
Yeah, it's part of the same. Yeah, it's kind of popular. We've talked about that. Yeah.
And we talked about the large selection of monsters and foes and challenges, built into the game, into the basic set of books that you buy instead of having to buy extra outside of the core rules, like some other games, like Rifts.
I tell you,
here's a system. Where's the enemies at? You can figure it out.
You're very hard pressed to touch the number of monsters you get from a D&D thing.
What's that? Say that again.
You're really hard pressed to touch the number of monsters that you get from a D&D monster purchase if you buy the basic monster manual. And a lot of games just don't give you enough to run with, or they give you a minimal amount to run with.
Right.
But I mean, it depends if you like monsters, I guess.
Right.
I think character advancement is it's connected to what they said, but not really. Is consistent and noticeable. When you advance,
you advance.
You advance.
Yeah, you've advanced. Yeah.
You generally get better.
It's not just some goofy thing.
It used to be in the older editions of D&D, a few levels were just hit points, seemed like, and probably were. But especially in 3rd edition and later on, every time you get a level, you got a lot better. I mean, things changed fairly significantly. I think the core system's been consistent, which adds to its longevity, right? A +1 sword has been a +1 sword since the inception, more or less. And -4 to a saving throw sucks, whether you're playing 2nd edition, 1st edition, or 5e. So a lot of consistency.
Easy to accommodate varied play styles. I agree with that.
Yep.
You don't have everybody doesn't have to play exactly the same way. I mean, considering that they're playing D&D, and that in itself implies a broad range of play styles.
Sure.
Perhaps.
You can be a hack and slasher. You can get into your character. You can be a wallflower that just rolls when it's his turn. Otherwise, they just sit and watch. I think you can be someone who absorbs the books and does all you can to make the most out of your character. You can be someone like
we've guys play the bad guys.
Yep, there's a lot of different options for the game. I think that draws me in. I like that ability to let that happen. Some games require more from you. I think a game like, let's take a game like even 13th Age, which is very D&D-esque. The narrative elements and the relationship points demands more from both the players and the DM to think about the story part. Some people don't want to mess with that.
Right. And if it was a thing that didn't make a whole lot of difference, that you could ignore it and it's not a huge deal, then that'd be one thing. But you can't really do that. In D&D, if you want to really just a simple system, the first edition, all you're really doing is rolling D20s.
Yes.
And apart from maybe damage dice. There's some exceptions to that. But it's essentially a D20. And you don't have to worry about a lot of resource management unless the DM puts that on you.
Yeah.
From their point of view. You have to keep track of everything.
And I think, well, Arman's kind of saying it. Every DM makes a D&D a different experience. I think that's true. I think
it is a good
but
thing.
I imagine that's probably true for some other games. I don't know. I would think so. I mean, Savage Worlds, different DMs, different. Though I haven't. Who's run Savage Worlds? Ben has.
Well, Savage Worlds isn't a good comparison because Savage Worlds is generic. Is more generic than D&D.
For sure. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to think of the system. I guess it could. Yeah, especially because it's generic. It's kind of a baby GURP. So, fair enough. I think the dungeon concept, which has always been with D&D, is great, especially for a new dungeon master. It's a self-contained environment, and it helps you be able to, sort of work your way into getting good as a DM. What's Balthazar saying?
Balthazar says, I've been tuning in here to this show for about a month now, and I have to say I really appreciate how much I resonate with how you guys think. You are far more real on my level. Thank you. And thank you.
Yeah. Well, we never thought we would reach Balthazar's level. I mean, he was so far above us, but
we were nervous. He showed up on the chat. We were like, "Oh no, Balthazar's here!
Oh God, he's here! What are we gonna do?"
Our game.
We appreciate it though. Thank you, man. We're glad you're here. We love having you. And but Bo knows minis. I want to tell him I did not steal his ideas. I had them written down. I promise you. That is a fact. You are correct. But
we do play role-playing games, so being silly is kind of part of the territory.
I think D&D accommodates, and especially different versions of D&D have accommodated larger or smaller groups. Though I'm more fond of smaller than larger, but
sure. But
I mean,
so your ability to have larger groups is mostly dependent on how well oiled your gaming group is and how well they know the rules. So, as much as clunky as some people will complain about how clunky D&D is, if you know how the game works, you're really not going to, especially the earlier 3rd edition. It's really hard to run a good combat scenario and it not take at least a half hour or longer. And that might not be a strike on it, according to some folks. But a lot of folks, you hear it, you got to make it faster, There's been a big mantra.
I've been guilty of that statement too. I do that sometimes, but I'm trying to imagine what it would be like to have 10 8th level 3rd edition characters at the table and run a combat. Right. That would be, I mean, you could do it, but it would take longer than your average combat. It would take longer. But
you'd have to have the players really invested on you have to be there in the moment instead of, letting themselves get distracted. And I can't remember how my character works kind of moments. No, that won't work. Not with the 3rd edition,
because
for sure.
I need Joe to be focused when I kill his wizard. I want him to really feel it and enjoy it.
Gotta feel it.
Enjoy that death. Mm.
All
Did you have
right.
any? Do you have any others? Hey,
I
Bo,
don't
tell
think
us
so.
if we hit anything. I want Bo to tell us if we hit anything he didn't write down. Let me go look at his. I may show Bo's. He came in here. Bo went straight up. Listen to this. Here's our closest. I'm going to put his up here. Nostalgia. We mentioned that.
Yeah.
Already own the books. Know the game. Yep. Already know the rules. Well, that's know the game. Sure. Already own the books. That's interesting. So maybe that's different than know the game. For those that play first edition still, that's what they have. They never bought anything else. Make a very good argument. Why should I buy another edition D&D? That's fair. You're silent.
There's kind of a theme. If you look at all 10. But go ahead.
Okay. Bo said it's what my friends play. Yep. We talked a little bit about that. It's popular. Inertia. I wonder if that's to do with maybe connected to how I said that I kind of don't want to learn new stuff because I'm old. Can't be bothered to find people to play other games. Well, I have quite a few people I can play different games with. We got currently in our large group Savage Worlds, Horde Wars, and Fallout, as well as 13th Age and 5e. They're all getting a workout. We have a large group of friends, like 20 plus, so games are making him. Marketing, yeah, D&D's got the power behind it, the money. Love of the D20s. Didn't say that, but I'm guilty of that. I do like my D20s. Don't want to buy any more new books. Not me. I like buying new stuff. Joe knows I'm a sucker. And only play fantasy. Not me, but I do like fantasy. It's my number one. What's the theme, Joe? What did you see? What?
It looks to me. It looks like the theme is laziness.
Oh, that he doesn't like how D&D. Well, I can get that from someone if you really want. Yeah. I get the word, Bo. Thanks. An object's desire to remain at rest. Yeah, sure. It's comfortable. I mean, for me, it is. I get that, but I've got
right. So, liking a thing and wanting to keep liking the thing. There's. I mean, it's a subjective. Who cares if? Why should anybody care if I like steak? I will eat steak, or I'll eat pizza, and I'll eat chili. If you put down a bowl of chili in front of me 7 days a week, I'm going to say thank you. I like that.
You are a chili monger.
Yeah.
Laziness, Bo says. Yeah. That's
yeah. I mean, as an overall kind of, and this is where I'm at, and I don't really want to go anywhere else. But that's just what they like, and you can't really. It's subjective, so
it's funny.
It's not a big deal.
I was telling Joe, I'll play anything, and I have a good time. I mean, I love, like we counted like in our Minders game, Savage Worlds being the base game, but the premise was we were going to play different games when you teleport to different dimensions. We must have played 10 different RPGs, and I enjoyed the living crap out of them. I can play almost anything. But when I'm running stuff, D&D is my default, but it's recently it's been D&D, Savage Worlds, Horde Wars, 13th Age to a lesser extent. Yeah.
Right. Balthazar says, frankly, Inertia does not epitomize AD&D as it has developed over the years, just the amount of time that elapses between incarnations of the game, but it still moves, always moves. Well, I think the inertia isn't on the part of the game.
It's players.
It's on the part of the game buyers. So I believe the point is that its popularity and continued relevance within the tabletop hobby is due to inertia and brand recognition, and instead of any kind of merits of the system itself.
Yeah, I guess for me,
what I think Bo is saying. The game doesn't have enough merit in itself to be continued to have continued relevance.
Yeah.
It's more a host of other things.
I think Bo's looking for guys that are willing to get out there and try some new stuff that he thinks are better. I mean, he clearly likes some things better than D&D, and there are games that
he doesn't like it as much as other folks. That's fine.
That's fine, or maybe he's tired of it. I mean, that's fair. I don't know.
That's fair.
And I'm I like all sorts of games, but D&D is it's my favorite. I mean, some fantasy RPGs, D&D being the number one probably, and it's hard for me to get away from, what I did for 45 years. Yeah. Yeah, that was just some of our top 10. I was glad to put Bo's out there because he took the time to type that in the YouTube thing, so I wanted to show that off. It was good.
And there are a lot of people that are sick and tired of D20 games.
Fair enough. We got friends.
D20. I don't want D20. I want something else. Yeah,
I got friends that are tired of level systems, classes, and okay. Mm-hmm. I guess for me, I'm the opposite. No, not the opposite. I'm not a huge fan of classless systems. I actually like classes or templates, something you can build your character within. I'm not a fan of just pick skills, make whatever you want. I mean, it can work out great, and I get it. I'm not pooping on that. I'm just saying it's not my cup of tea.
Right.
So.
All right.
Anywho.
How about we just move along?
Sure.
Big Geek Land, about the only thing I'm going to talk about is Big Geek Con 2. We've got 2 more game submissions that I have approved. So 4 events altogether.
I'm going to do 2. I'm going to do Dungeons and Delvers. I don't know if it's called Flesh Crafters, and then a kid game. I may do 1 more. Well, and I won't have time to do 3, but I'm going to tell myself I might. But come check it out, guys. It'll be fun. It's in Saginaw, Michigan, September 20th to 22nd. It shall be a blast. 2.75 days of major gaming. James Gang he's pimping out Baptism of Fire. I'm glad you're liking it. I think the cover looks cool. I'm just not fully into the historical stuff that the pundit does, but I think it's got some nice.
Matt Scribe does that. Matt Scribe does that.
Yeah, but I mean, Pundit wrote that book though. So. Pundit Baptism of Fire. It's published by the Matt
Scribe Games.
Which I love those, dude. I love those, dude.
Yeah, it's a pricey book, $75 hardcover. But that's when you're getting it on DriveThru RPG on demand. Although that's kind of not artificial. It seems higher to get an on-demand book, but it's going to be because they don't have the volume discount.
I think Balthazar has a question on Big Geek Con. I'm assuming this is a Big Geek Con question, Balthazar. He said, do you have a wide range of ages that want to participate? Well, we had as young as 1 4-year-old. She was our little mascot. She made the floor lava for a few hours. But I ran a game with 7 to 16-year-old kids and had a hell of a time. Apparently we were too loud. But this year we may be in our separate room, so we won't drive us adults crazy. It's mostly adults. Most people were in the 20s.
But the adults' ages range.
Oh yeah,
we have people. Ages range from 20s to
Iron
60s.
20s to Iron Man.
Yeah, to Iron Man. The old dude in the room.
Oh, dude, no, he's all right. He was dominating. He was playing much Horde Wars. He played helped play test my module, which was really cool. So, I didn't play test it. He ran through it. I already had it printed.
Was that where he had the 4 con person?
Powerful cleric. I gave him a 4 dexterity, and he never would shut up. I mean, he had a 4 dexterity, Joe.
He was very fond of that 4 dexterity.
He loved every second of it.
Yeah. Dex of 4.
Yeah, but you dominated, so it's okay. Which means you live.
It's probably because he didn't try to walk around or move.
No, he was careful. He stood still the whole adventure. He was very smart. I mean, you don't get where he is in life and just start walking around with the 4 decks.
No, come on. That's a recipe for disaster.
That is a recipe, which I was hoping.
Why did you walk into my sword, dude? I have 4 decks. I can't help it.
I saw it coming. I just couldn't stop myself. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. $30, and you get 2.758 days of gaming, and you get to hang out with me and Joe and play games with us. We're super cool guys, except when we're not. But yeah, Don't you have this one? Ultra American says he's waiting on the World of the Last Sun. Don't you have that one, Joe?
Yeah,
A little book,
I thought
little
that, when I saw that, I'm
Gonzo,
like, yeah,
Gonzo
well,
fantasy.
Maybe it's a slightly different.
Oh,
It's a different book in the Last Sun line.
oh, there's a line.
I didn't either. I thought it was just a one-off book. I can't see it from here, but yeah, I thought that's what I thought that was already out, unless it's a re-release.
I don't have a clue, man. Oh well, hold on. I will show you. I will present arms. Give me a moment. This is the one you have, right?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Yeah. So
Maybe he's just waiting on its delivery,
yeah, maybe,
and he's ordered it.
perhaps.
But yes, I have that. I think I've read most of it. It has some pretty interesting scenarios in it.
Balthazar and I have something else in common. He says he teaches at a college. Me too. He finds there's a real difference between COVID age kids, non-COVID age kids, and I'm not even talking about nerd versus no nerd. Age is a big factor now, not just maturity. Yes, sir. I call it lovingly the COVID cohort. Those poor kids got hosed.
Yes, they did. Yes, they
in multiple ways.
Some of them had they got locked in their house for a whole year or more.
Yeah, and you got to remember, it wasn't just like, because I saw them when we did it live and had normal classes again. They were really struggling, but they were like the ones that had done it when they were sophomores and juniors. They became juniors, seniors, first year of college, came to us, but they're still they're still working their way through 2 years of students who missed a lot of stuff. So
right.
Hopefully they'll be able to make it up, but I have zero confidence in the public education system. So there you go.
You know, there's a lot of there are a lot of parents that don't feel that they are geared to help out their kids with high school work, even though they should be able to.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of that material is available online and easy to access. So I don't know why people fell that far behind.
Well, because parents, we're getting off topic, but a lot of parents, they drop their kids off at school and forget about them. And so when they hook them to the internet and forget about them, there you go. And they are not, you got 25 kids in a classroom, you got on a big screen in Zoom, and all the videos turned off because of like saving bandwidth or whatever. And then next thing you know, they're not, would you, Joe, would you been paying attention with your screen down, you're 14, you got your Monster Manual right beside you? Get out of here.
Probably not.
No way. That's a horrible plan. It was a stupid plan. From the beginning, it was literally ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, they didn't ask me. They should have. I would have straightened it out.
So some people could revel in that sort of environment for learning.
Some could.
Just like some people are fine in the classroom, but some people are not. They're too rambunctious. Or like me, I sit down and somebody's like droning, I'll fall asleep.
I was built for it. I could sit and listen. We could talk for 2 hours.
All kinds of different. Yeah. So high school and our primary education system is very cookie cutter and expects everyone to be able to learn at the same rate, or doesn't care what kind of student you are, and will often leave people behind, not so many, well, actually a lot. And then other people will just be, it's not geared for people who are really hard workers, really.
I've got some colleagues that are doing some very innovative things in mathematics, online education, but just a few. So, well, This has probably been terribly exciting, this last part of the podcast. We probably ought to wrap things up, don't you think?
Yes. Let's wrap things up. If you have anything else to say about the topic, leave some comments after the fact, because we're getting ready to sign off here. Anything more you want to say?
Not me.
All righty. Well, this is Joe.
And this is Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.